Gamers tend to miss things in video games, whether it was because there was too much going on at one time on screen, or they were too immersed in the story. Stuff can and does get missed. This is especially true for games like Alan Wake 2, where things are intentionally hidden and are only found by the eagle-eyed. It's been 6+ months since the game came out, as well as the first DLC Night Springs came out a few weeks ago, so I thought it would be a good idea to go back and find some. So here are 5 things you may have missed when playing Alan Wake 2. Now be warned, there will be spoilers for Alan Wake 2, so if you haven't experienced your first loop, go ahead and click the link in the upper right hand corner to start watching my playthrough of the game, or there will be a link in the description below.
So, take a sip of our Oh Dear Diner organic coffee and let the adventure begin!
Now we'll start with an easier one. Did you know that Alan and Saga have contact with most of the introduced characters, whether directly or indirectly? I know what you're thinking. Alan was in the dark place for most of the game. So how? Well, we all know the main characters, Casey, Rose, Tim, Ahti, but a few of the supporting characters you may have missed. Specifically, the Bookers, Mulligan and Thornton, the Koskela brothers, and Mr. Door. How? You're still asking, right? Most of the indirect contact is on Alan's side, because we know Saga actually interacts with most of them directly. Alan indirectly interacts with the Bookers and Mulligan and Thornton at the murder scenes through the echoes that give Alan his plot points for the plot board.
Bad luck to be on this case. The cult can get you anywhere with that black magic shit. Let the day shift handle it. What happened, anyway?
Some Fed came looking for the cult, but it was a trap. A satanic blood sacrifice.
This is where the history of the cult gets genuinely disturbing. The cultists track down the torchbearers living in the tunnels. They lock the poor folks up in a derailed subway car, douse it in gasoline. Yeah.
Charming.
Performance of the cult was cursed from the pre-show ritual on. The cult is an immersive theatrical experience.
A bonus thing you may have missed, especially if you do not play with subtitles like I do, is that Mulligan, Thornton, and Tammy are all labeled with generic monikers, NYPD officers, and the professor respectively, but for some reason, Ed is labeled as himself rather than something generic like the director or playwright. It could have just been an oversight, or was it intentional? Who knows? Now, the only interaction Alan has with the Koskela brothers is briefly in the jail towards the end of the loop. Now, Mr. Door, on the other hand, while heavily interacting with Alan, is only briefly profiled by Saga, thus the indirect contact on Saga's part.
The family of Doors have the power to shift between these realities, here and elsewhere.
If I can find a way to navigate through this nightmare, maybe I can find a way to get back home.
Come join Mocha Moose and the goats at our amusement park petting zoo. Just don't share your coffee with the goats. Seriously, stop feeding our goats coffee. Seriously, it's not amusing.
Moving on, did you happen to notice the lone rubber duck popping up all over the place? Yeah, you heard right. A lone rubber duck that just happens to randomly be around in places it really shouldn't be. Perhaps it's the rubber duck that was locked up in the Panopticon from Control. Who knows?
Wow, this is the best party ever. Thanks, Alma Beer. Alma Beer is a traditional Finnish lager, and we drink it the Finnish way.
At the bar while actively avoiding small talk with strangers. Getting blackout drunk on a boat during midsummer and trying not to drown. In the sauna, using your beer can to hide your pippeli from wandering eyes. Partaking in the Finnish tradition of kalsarikännit, drinking at home alone in your underwear with no intentions of going out.
It's not sad if it's intentional.
Now, this one you kind of had to actively search for, which is exactly what KriegerBot did, shared by Matt over at Hidden Machine. Kriegerbot noticed that the cracks under the fountain bowl in the dark place formed a pattern that looked like Diver's Isle from the first game. As you can see, I think Kriegerbot was onto something.
Coincidence? I think not!
By the way, a link to the X-Post made by Matt for Kriegerbot will be in the description below, as well as a link for Hidden Machines channel. Go check them out. Lots of Alan Wake vids, lots of Remedy vids in general, and a whole bunch of other goodies as well.
Soak in some local history at the Huotari Well, where 2 serial killers once hid the disemboweled bodies of their murder victims.
It's not haunted. No.
Here's another one that you kind of had to stop and look for, but was kind of hidden in plain sight sort of deal. Did you notice what was written on the signs around the dark place? Most of them had the opening lines from the first Alan Wake game, when he was in the nightmare while riding the ferry to Bright Falls.
Following a typical nightmare pattern, I was late, desperately trying to reach my destination, a lighthouse. For some urgent reason, I couldn't remember. I'd been driving too fast down a coastal road to get there.
Now, here is another easy bonus one. Did you catch Alan reaching for his forehead every time he would start a loop in the talk show guest room? Even though he didn't remember consciously, he still remembered the sensation and buried memory of being shot by, well, himself. Before we get to the last one, if you've liked the video so far, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to get updates on when I put out new videos. The final one steers a bit into fan theory territory, but I included it as it may make you think once you hear it. I also didn't dig too deep into seeing if someone else might have come up with this first, so I won't claim it just yet.
The guard simply didn't notice. Neither did I. I mean, seriously, how often do you really look at a man's
hair? That's right, Alan's hair. This one takes a playthrough to fully get, but did you ever wonder why Alan goes from that nice combed out look to that disheveled mess? I believe the answer is the Dark Presence's influence on Alan through the loops. Looking at the game's timeline from Alan's perspective as a whole, as throughout the loops you only see pieces until after his second murder site, Alan finds a version of himself shot in the writer's room, and the Dark Presence enters him. From this point on, Alan's hair is in that messy, disheveled state, now giving a visual quote-unquote difference from Alan versus the Dark Presence or Scratch. Even continuing to the point where Alan, now with the Dark Presence inside him, shows up on the beach where Saga finds him. But he came out of the lake, of course his hair is gonna be like that, you might be thinking. But did he actually come out of the lake? Alan appears on the shore. He actually doesn't physically come out of the lake, and yet his hair still looks like that. Man, I could make a whole video on this alone. Actually, if that's something you'd like to see, let me know in the comments down below. And there you have it. 5 things you may... well, 7 things, technically, you may have missed when playing Alan Wake 2. There are so many other things that have been missed, so if you know of any that I didn't mention here, let me know in the comments. This game was amazing, and the DLC was just as good. But if you haven't played it yet, or if you've already gone through your first loop but haven't experienced the final draft, go ahead and click the corresponding playlist on screen now. I'll be back.